All right, so I wanted to show how to create the sealing surface of a face mask um, for the purpose of 3D printing and to make sure it seals really well to the face. Um, this is the face mask I created, and I printed this one. If you put your hand over the opening, it seals really well. You can't get any air through here. So I wanted to show the workflow that I've come up with to create this surface. Now to create, the point here where it seals to the filter element, it's up to you. I haven't done that yet myself because I haven't picked the filter media I want to use. So once you have that, you can extrude it and do what you need to do in order to uh, breathe through the filter. So here I want to show, so two programs are needed. One is Fusion 360, and the other one is Recap Photo. Now, Recap Photo is a program by Autodesk, and it's free if you have a education license, or otherwise it's $300 some a year, I believe. But it's super handy and super easy to use. So the way you use this is you take a number of pictures of the object, and then you upload it, and it creates a 3D picture. So this one's me. This one's me. That's my wife. So in order to do this, once you open Recap Photo, you come to the object, and this is where you select all of these pictures. So these are all the pictures I've taken from ear to ear of my wife. And so we select all of these. Oops. I'll select all, Control A, and then say Open. Okay. And now when you click Create, it's going to take all these pictures and upload them. And it might take a while. You might get into a queue, and it might take a while to create. When I made hers, I did it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It took about 3 hours to do. When I did mine, I did it at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it went through pretty quick. So click Create, and then it'll upload it and send it to the servers, and eventually you'll come back, and it'll say you can download the 3D model, and it'll give you this. Now, this is the model that it created of my wife. She's pretty good. She moved her eyes, so it made her a little cross-eyed, kind of funny. Anyway, this model I've cleaned up a little bit. You can come into here and use slice and fill, and then you can move the plane around. It's not the greatest, but it works. Anyway, I narrow the model down to just her face because it gave some other things too. So once you've got the model as you want it, what you want to do is you want to export it. And I exported it for Fusion 360. Now it has to be quads. Fusion 360 doesn't work well with triangles when you try to convert it to a T-spline, which is what we're going to have to do. So you have to make sure you're in quads. I use low quality because it works fine. You can use medium. I've done it with medium. It doesn't seem to make much difference. So click export, and you come back to Fusion 360. Control N, we're going to create a new one. Control O for open, and then you're going to open the model that exports. So this is the exported model from Recap Photo. Okay, click that. All right. So now you've got this nice model here. So the first thing you have to do is you have to scale it. So you go into your mesh workspace, and you're going to scale the model. Oops, actually first you want to measure it to see what scale you need. So I've measured the center of my wife's eyes. So we go from about here to here. Now it's 2.5 from the center of her eyes. 2.4 from where I measured, that's close enough. This doesn't have to be exact. You're not working with thousandths of an inch or anything like that. I would say within a tenth of an inch is probably good enough. So I don't need to scale here, but if you did need to scale, you take the number that you want it to be and you divide that by this measurement, okay, and that'll give you a scale. So this will be 2.5 inches is what I want, divided by 2.4 would be pretty close to 1. If this happened to be 1 inch or 1.5 inch, you take your 2.5 and then divide it by 1.5, and you'll get the scale that you want. Is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. Anyway, you can figure out the math there. If I'm mistaken, I should have written that down, but I didn't. Anyway, so then you come to scale, you go to scale, modify, and then scale, and then you select it and you can scale it to whatever you want. So you make it bigger, smaller. You can type in a number here. Now since I'm, at 1 scale, so that's good enough. So now next step. Next step is to convert this into a T-spline. So we're going to do quad mesh is what we have, to T-spline. And we're going to select that body and say, okay, now it's going to create, my model creates multiple bodies, T-spline bodies, because there's some, artifacts out here. So when you come here and look at all these bodies, the only one we want is body 1. So let's go ahead and delete the rest of these because they're just extraneous, don't really need them. So delete it. One thing to point out is I'm actually not capturing the design history. There's some things you can't do when you're capturing it when you're surfaces. Anyway, so now that we have deleted those other bodies, now we can go ahead and convert this into a surface. Okay, so we're going to do T-spline to brep, and we're going to select that body, and we're going to say okay. Give the computer a second to do that. Okay, now we have a surface to work with. Using surfaces because I can cut this body now. That's a little difficult to do in T-splines. Some expert in T-spline might be able to do it directly in T-splines. I'm not an expert. I'm trying to do this as easy as I can. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this model and we're going to remove all of the pieces of the body that we don't want for the sealing surface of the face mask. So the way we do that is we go ahead and create a construction plane that is just outside of the face. Okay, as long as it's outside of the face, that's all we need. Okay, so that's outside of the face. So then we create a sketch on that plane, on this plane. Okay, let me look at the front here. So now we're going to create our sketches that we're later going to extrude. So we take, I like to use the T-spline or the spline line. You can do it however you want. So create 1 point there, 1 point there, and a point there. That's probably pretty good. Say checkbox. So now we have one of the surfaces that we're going to use. Now you can come in here and you can move these guys around however you want. Right there is probably pretty good. Remember, if it tries to snap unless you hold down the control key, so it won't snap if you don't control key. If you want a little more resolution in how you move that around. So okay, so now that we have one edge, we want to do an offset. Okay, take an offset and I just kind of eyeball it. You can enter a value if you want. I just like to eyeball it. So right there, this is how. Now you finish that sketch, and in the surface, we're going to create a surface based on these two lines. Okay, and extrude that out as long as it covers the whole face. It doesn't matter how long it is. So now we have those. Now we can cut these bodies. So we can split body, and we're going to split the body with this first tool. Now I've tried to use both of them at once, but it doesn't work. It crashes. Maybe it won't crash on yours. I don't know. This ends up being a kind of a complicated surface. So now we have two bodies. So now we split the body again. And this time we're going to split this front body that we just created with this cutting tool. Okay. Now we say OK, and now we can hide all of the other bodies that we don't want. So now we have the surface that is going to touch the face. Okay. So to create the whole face mask, now we turn this back on, show you the face. So now you can see this face lines up. That's where it's going to seal to the face. So now what we want to do is we want to extrude, create where this is going to attach to your filter element. Now, how you do the filter element, that's up to you. I haven't actually figured that out yet because I don't know what filter element I want to use just yet. But the important part of what I'm trying to show is how to create the surface that seals to the face. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another offset plane, but this time we want to do it in the front, and we want it just in front of the nose. Now you can play around with this, how long you want the filter to, or the mask to be. You know, you can make it really long, really short. I think the longer it is, the easier it is to extrude out, or excuse me, to loft out what we're gonna do. And then, you know, it may make it too close. It's hard for it to. It might cut through the nose. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a surface there, okay? And then what we do is we take, create a sketch, and this is just going to be a primitive, just very simple. So we're going to create a line, and this line, we want this line to be the center line of the face, okay? So you select the line, you can click the X key or hit the button over here to turn it into a construction line. So now this is a construction line. Now you can grab this line and you can move it around, just try to find the center. So I'm using the nose. Let's find the center there. Okay, great. Now we don't want to finish. We create a circle on that center line. Now I did 2.5 inches. Okay. So now we have a 2.5 inch circle. You can move that circle up and down. Oh, we don't want to move the line. Crud. Let me move that line back. So just make sure it's centered. So we kind of, you know, this is going to be where we're going to attach to our filter element. So now once we're there, we can finish. And we want to do an extrusion, and we're going to select that circle and do 1/2 inch. Okay, now this creates this a circle here. What is that called? Anyway, it creates a circle. It's not a Cheezo pizza. Anyway, so it creates a circle there, and what we got to do next is we're simply going to loft from, and we'll make sure that chain selection is on, and it's a closed system. So we're going to select this surface and then this surface. Okay, now it creates our mask. So we want to reverse normal. See, it picks the inside as the normal, which is what we don't want. So we want to do that. So there's the face mask that is actually going to seal to the face. And again, however you do the filter element, you have to thicken this once you're ready to go. Once you have this, you thicken it, and then it turns into a solid, and then you can design your filter element however you want to attach to that. I'll probably make another video when I have that working. So yeah, this is one other thing I wanted to show. Let me Control Z twice, and now I've got my before I loft. I want to show how to control the loft a little bit better. So one of the things that we need to do is we add a point at a vertex, and I want to not a vertex, sorry. I want to do a construction line, point at center of a sphere, okay, so that's the cylinder, that's what that's called. So center of the cylinder. So now that I've got a point there, I can create, let me try construction plane, and let me do this one, and it's going to be, I want to object, and we're going to select this object. Okay, now we've got that plane there, and we can come down here, we can grab this plane, make it look a little bit easier. Okay, now that's the center of the circle here, which should be on the center of the nose. Okay, and then we're going to construct another plane, but this one in the XZ plane, and we're also going to do to object, and we're going to again do that same object. Okay, and say okay, and you know, just for visual appearances, we'll extend that plane. Okay, so now we've got two planes that are going through the very center of the circle here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sketch in that plane. Okay, now that we're in that plane, wrong button, sorry. We're going to create a sketch in this plane, and I want to look at the front. Okay, so what you can do is you can draw a line from here to here, however you want to make it work. So what I like to do is I like to do include, don't do project, do intersect. So intersect these bodies, select bodies, and you want to intersect this body and then this body, okay? I'll say okay. Now we can hide those guys. And now we've got the two lines that we want to connect. So take a spline and do something kind of like this. Yeah, you can kind of mess around. Now I like to make this guy tangent. Let me escape. Make this guy tangent to this line. So now it's going to create a nice smooth surface there. And then also make this tangent so you can make it part of that line. So now we've got a mask. It might look a little funny, but it's going to give clearance for the nose. We can even come back here and turn that on so you can kind of see how it's going to clear the nose there. So then we can bring this down a little bit. Okay, so we can make sure that that clears the nose. And now that looks pretty good to me. So we can say finish sketch. And then, actually I wanted to do the bottom one too. So let's go back into that sketch. I didn't finish that sketch. Let's see, edit that sketch. Okay. So now we also have, since we did the whole body, we have these lines down here. So let me turn this back off. So we want to create a line. Now this is a curved surface, but that's okay. I want to create here and then here. Okay. And then we say exit. So now we have our spline here, and we can adjust it so that it's tangent. Come on. Hello. Oh, I think I made that connected, didn't I? Okay, let's do that line again. So delete that line, and I think it put a constraint when I did this. So I don't want to constrain that here. So hold down the control key. Now it won't constrain it to anything. So there, and then about there. Now we do want this one to constrain. So okay. Oops. Control Z for undo, and that. So now we have our now we can move this around. So now we can make this guy tangent to that, and we can move this around a little bit. Okay. And then this one, we also want this one to be tangent with this line. Okay, so finish that sketch. Now, you can do the same thing. I'm not going to show it because it takes a little time, but you can do the same thing in this plane here, right? And draw the outside. But then when you're done, you're going to take these bodies and not that body, that body. So when you do your when you go ahead and do your loft now, you still make sure chain and make sure it's closed. Okay, from there to, oops, how did we get 2 in there? So I want this surface, that guy, and that guy. So now you can see it tries to do it automatically, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a rail. We're going to add that as a rail, and that as a rail. Didn't quite work right, did it? Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do those side ones, so let me do that real quick. So let's turn construction back on, and we're going to create a sketch. Okay, and we're going to do, let's see, create, include this line and this line, say okay, hide those, do our two, this, here, and here, and then here, and here. Now you can play around with symmetry if you want. Let's try that. Let's do mirror. Do mirror, and then make sure that you're gonna mirror this object to this plane here. Now it's gonna mirror that. Now what you want to do with these lines, now they're not gonna quite line up, so let's go ahead and delete the mirror constraint, and now we can take this and this line, oops, this point and this point. Let's do coincident to that point. So now I'll move it. So now we have, alright, that one didn't move, I'm not sure why. Anyway, so now we can adjust the tangency there. And turn the face back on so we can kind of see where we're at here. Oh, that's pretty good. You can adjust that a little more, but I'm just gonna do this now. Now let's try lofting it again. Oops, my bodies are off. So now we're going to that surface and then that surface. I had an extra one selected there, so we're gonna delete all those. And then we're going to do this surface and this surface. And then the guide rails, we're going to add that as a guide rail. I said that as a guide rail. That as a guide rail. That as a guide rail. And that as a guide rail. Okay. Now, you have to do all four apparently. So now we've got a nice looking mask there that will clear the nose and still seal. So that's all I wanted to show, was how to create the basic form that will seal the face. And like I said, this seals really well as long as you put the mask on the same spot that you designed it for. It seals really well. So that's all I wanted to show, was basically how to get this. You can thicken this surface and this surface and this surface, and you'll have a solid. And then it'll actually then you can 3D print it, and it does a pretty good job. So maybe I'll do a part 2 where I show how to when I figure out what filter medium to use, I'll create a part 2. So that's all I wanted to show. Thanks for watching.